I'd like to share with you something beautiful in this week's Parshas Nosai, from the Rebbe's father, Rabbi Yitzchok Zatzal. In this week's Parsha, we have the mitzvah of Bichas Kohanim, the blessing that the priesthood family gives all Bnei Yisrael. And the Zohar explains on this week's Parsha the reason that the Kohanim pick up their hands when they make the bracha. Not only do they pick up their hands, the Zohar says the right hand, the Yemina, should be higher than the left hand. And the Alter Rebbe in Shulchon Uruch, in the Hilchos Bichas Kohanim, brings this down, that the right hand should be higher. And then the Zohar says that when the Kohanim pick up their hand, this brings a hashpoah. It draws down from heaven through the powers of the fingers and the hands of the Kohanim, that the Eibishter should bless and bring the bracha mamshich, to draw down the bracha from the Eibishter to the Yidden. And then the Zohar continues. That's why we see many mitzvahs are done with the hands. And it uses the lashon, the expression in the Zohar is v'hainu taima. This is the reason of Lulav. V'hainu taima, the Shofar. This is also the reason of the Shofar. Both of them will use their hands, as we'll explain. So Rabbi Yitzchok asks over 3 questions. Number 1, what's the reason why the Kohen elevates the right hand over the left hand when he makes the bracha? And then why does the Zohar, from all the mitzvahs that we have, the Zohar says this is also the reason of the Lulav, and this is also the reason of the Shofar? Question number 3 asks Rabbi Yitzchok a diuk. Shofar is mentioned in the Torah before Lulav. And also in time-wise, in the beginning of the month of Tishrei, first we have the mitzvah of Shofar Rosh Hashanah, and then we have the mitzvah from Lulav on Sukkot. So why does the Zohar say V'hainu taima the Lulav first, and then afterwards Shofar, when in the sequence, in the order, Sayin the Torah, Sayin Zman, Sayin time, Shofar is before. Explains Rabbi Yitzchok. He brings down what says in Zohar Parshas Pinchas Davreshu Dalet, that the Eibishter says Smoile Taches LeRoishi V'Yemine Techapkeni. Explains the Chassidus that this is referring to the 2 times of Rosh Hashanah and Sukkot. The first half of Tishrei is the time of Yom Adin, it's time of judgment, which is Gevurah. A time when the Eibishter has to judge the Yidden and make sure that we come out Zakai in a merit way. But once Yom Kippur is over and we have already our Chasima, then it comes a time of Sukkot, which is the Hashem embraces us, and it's a time of Simcha. It's a time of Hashpo, of Chesed. Explains the Zohar, and Rabbi Yitzchok elaborates that the right hand of a person symbolizes Chesed. Chesed Gvor, Chesed Roya Yemina. On the right side is kindness. On the left side is Gevurah. When a Kohen picks up his hands, he's picking up both hands. That he wants there should be chasodim, kindness, and those things that we had, those challenges should also change into good. And that's why, says Rabbi Yitzchok, the right hand is higher than the left hand, because we want, the Kohen wants to bring the hashpah from chesed, from kindness. And now you'll understand, says Rabbi Yitzchok, why the Zohar says first Lulav and then Shofar. Because Lulav is Sukkot, which is the time of Chesed, and Shofar is the time of Din, Rosh Hashanah, B'chinas Gevurah. The left hand, Smoile Taches LeRoishi. And therefore, since the Zohar is mentioning mitzvahs that we do with the hand in continuation with his previous detail of the Bichas Kohanim, which the right hand is higher than the left hand, that's why the Zohar says first Lulav, and then he says Shofar. First Chasodim, and then Gevurah, the right hand, then the left hand, just like it is by Lulav and Shofar. Continues Rabbi Levi Yitzchok, very interesting thing. Why does the Zohar pick these two mitzvahs, Lulav and Shofar? So he says three interesting points. Number one is the sheer, the amount of how high a Lulav has to be. It says in the Gemara, has to come out a tefach higher than your hadassim and arouses. So the size of a Lulav is the size of a tefach. The size of a shofar also, it says, what's the size of a shofar? In order that you should hold the shofar in your hand, and it should stick out a little bit from this side and from that side. Now, in a tefach, when you make a tefach, you have all your 5 fingers. Lulav goes on the right hand, and shofar goes on the left. The mitzvahs also, as we mentioned, Lulav, you have to take it with your hand, and shofar also, you also have to take it with your hand. Then says Rabbi Levi Yitzchok another interesting detail, a connection with Lulav, Shofar, with Bichas Kohanim. All of them have the number 3. Bichas Kohanim has 3 psukim. Shofar has Tkiya, Shvarim, Teruah, and also has the 3 parts of blowing, Tashrat, Tashat, and Tarat. And also Lulav, we have to shake it each side 3 times. So we have a connection over here, both with the size of the mitzvah and also how we do it with the hand, and also the way we perform the mitzvah of 3 is a connection of Bichas Kohanim and the mitzvah for Lulav and Shofar. And by Bichas Kohanim we have both hands, and that corresponds with later behind the time with the Lulav referring to the right hand of the Bichas Kohanim, behind the time with the Shofar referring to the left hand. Lulav is first because Lulav is chesed, and the Kohen picks up his right hand over his left hand. Just to conclude, by the Rebbe's father, everything is bigematria. If you take the words koisavorachu, this is what you should bench the Yidden. It comes out with the koilel. If you add it up, it comes out to exactly Lulav and Shofar together. So koisavorachu bichas koyanim is exactly the same mispor, the same gematria, numerical value of Lulav and Shofar, and that's why the Zohar, for all these reasons, picks dafke the connection of bichas koyanim with Lulav and Shofar.